Good morning, greetings in the powerful name of Jesus, precious friends. It's good to see you today. You know, as a society, we like to measure things, we like to quantify things, don't we? If we can do that, it makes it easier for it to settle in our minds, for us to understand, to know what we are working with, to know what we're dealing with. And so we measure baking ingredients and liquids in cups and in spoons. We measure our weight in kilograms or pounds. We measure popularity by Facebook friends or Instagram followers. We measure height in centimeters or meters. So many ways to measure, so many things to measure, and so we measure away. Speaking of measuring, you know, I bet Zacchaeus often felt like he didn't really measure up. Certainly physically, we know that he was vertically challenged. He was a little on the short side. You know Zacchaeus, right? He was the tax collector. Actually, he was the chief tax collector, small in stature, but with a big bank balance that came from charging people, in fact, overcharging people, lots and lots of money. And because of this, he didn't really measure up to his fellow Jews' standards. He was working for the Roman government, and in their eyes, that would measure him as a traitor, a sellout. He also was touching Gentile money and mixing with the Gentiles. That would make him and measure him up as unclean. And even though he was very wealthy, verse 2 tells us this, and he had a certain amount of position in the government as the chief tax collector, he was not respected. He was not liked. No one got excited to see Zacchaeus at their door. No one welcomed him into their home or into their hearts or their private spaces. No, Zacchaeus didn't really measure up. Goodness, it must have made for such a lonely existence. You know the name Zacchaeus? His name actually means pure or righteous, hardly fitting for a man who was seen as dishonest and a little bit of a thief. I guess he didn't even really measure up to his name. Zacchaeus gets word that Jesus was coming by. Maybe the whole town was buzzing about it. Word spreads and a crowd gathers, and Zacchaeus goes to join the crowd. But Zacchaeus can't see beyond the crowd because of his height. No one kept him a space. No one makes space for him. No one lets him through. Perhaps just another reminder of how he didn't really measure up. But I love how Zacchaeus responds to his lack. Does he give up? Does he say, just wasn't meant to be, or I'll see it in the news, or read it in the paper, or see an update on social media? Of course not. Something that Zacchaeus has heard about Jesus has stirred his heart to such an extent that he is determined to see Jesus that day. Verse 4 tells us that he ran ahead and he climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. Let's stop just right there for a moment. Climbing a tree, that's what children did, not grown men. That was undignified behavior. After all, who wants to meet Jesus, the one who's able to hear, the one who's made the deaf to hear and the blind to see? Who wants to meet Jesus sitting in a tree? How embarrassing, unfitting for a businessman, a government worker, a man of means. What would people say? What would Jesus think? I love that Zacchaeus doesn't care. He doesn't stop. He just finds a new vantage point. He puts his pride in his pocket and he hitches up his garments and he climbs that tree. He seeks higher ground. Maybe he knows that if he stays where he is, he will stay as he is. Zacchaeus wants to see Jesus. Zacchaeus needs to see Jesus, and so he climbs that tree. Zacchaeus positions his body in the tree so that he could see Jesus, but by doing so, Zacchaeus also positions his heart in such a way that makes Jesus pause as he passes the tree that Zacchaeus is sitting in. Verse 5 tells us, when Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. Jesus doesn't measure the areas that Zacchaeus lacks in. No, Jesus just responds to Zacchaeus' effort, his intentionality, his heart, his position in the tree, the lengths that Zacchaeus has gone to just to get a glimpse of Jesus. Jesus sees that. Jesus notices that. Jesus measures that. And that day, salvation comes to Zacchaeus' house. Today, what lengths will you and I go to see Jesus, to meet with Jesus, to engage with Jesus, to see Jesus a little more clearly, a little more closely. If we stay where we are, we will stay as we are. Will we let circumstances, the crowd, our lack, the areas we don't quite measure up in, will we allow those to obstruct our view? Or will we throw that aside and position our hearts to meet with Jesus? You know, if we learn anything from Zacchaeus' encounter with Jesus, it's that we will not be disappointed. We will not be the same. And that Jesus sees our efforts. And as he sees them, he pauses. He gets personal. He calls us by name. And he even comes home with us. Make the effort today, won't you? Position yourself, position your heart so that you can see Jesus better today. God bless you.